Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you my top plays for the 2021 Guinness Invitational. Thank you for stopping by. If you are new, I will dive into some details that you might not get for some of the other guys in the industry. And hopefully, from this, you will be able to optimize your lineup and picks. And let's get into this. So, a couple things. I wanted to go over a little bit more information on the course breakdown. Kind of missed a few things that I wanted to note. The player field I had at 140. It is down to 120. We had Daniel Berger, who withdrew, which is not a shocker. The guy just won a tournament. They're going to be, after this West Coast swing, heading to Florida. That's where he lives. So, I think he's going to go party a bit, enjoy it, understand that 100%. And then the one thing that I missed I want to talk about was the course defense. It is crazy slope, fast POA greens. I mentioned a bit of that, but that is his number one defense, and it is the number one thing that we have to look for in the ranking of starting is guys that can handle these POA greens. A lot like the Masters, I'm going with the narrative and the thought process that these guys had to get around this track at least once to have some success here. I believe if you are new, unless you're just, a phenomenal talent to the course, you are going to struggle a little bit, not understanding which side of the greens and how everything works with that. Also on the course, there is holes that run on a tree-lined area. So there's a few holes that if you hit it, off wayward, you are going to be in some trouble. Then, of course, there is trees in the rough lined area sporadically put here or there. But it is a course that also has some very narrow fairways. It also has some larger fairways, but it has some narrow fairways. Hence, I think the first par 5 is a very narrow fairway. So, again, that's hence why the accuracy over the distance we're going to be looking at. I think that's it. I just wanted to kind of fill in those holes, and I apologize that we do have an amazing field that is playing here, probably the best since the Masters, kind of like a WGC event, a mini major, and our work is cut out for us to try to dive and find the guys that are going to produce at all levels, and that's what I'm going to be doing with you here now. And then just so you understand where I'm ranking the skills, so I mentioned first thing, good putters on POA, need to avoid 3 putts. The guys hitting the long irons, solid ball strikers, but really guys that are just awesome on approach from 150, 175, and 200 plus. There's a lot of sand. There's no water on this course, so you don't have to worry about that, but you do have to be able to get out of the sand around the greens and even hitting out of the fairway bunkers. Green and reg is a big indicator. If you're going to do well, you're going to need to be able to scramble. Of course, fairways, like I said, accuracy and distance is last. And that's just showing, of course, Adam Scott here won here twice. Technically, the 2005 one was, I think, not considered a actual win, but he still got the trophy, he said, and he still thinks it is a win. And, of course, Bubba's got crazy course history here. Okay. Also, I'm bringing up the comp courses because I did add one. I added Torrey Pines, the South course. It is a California course. It is POA. Even though it's a little longer than 7,300 yards that the track they're playing, I think there is some crossover for sure. I mentioned already the WGC Mexico where they play the Club de Golf Chapultepec. I always struggle with that one. Ridgewood, I'm only looking at 1 year, 2018. That course is a very similar course. It's where they played the Northern Trust in 2018 and will play in 2021. And then I also like Innsbruck, Copperhead, where they play the Valspar. Even though it's a different greens, I think the difficulty of the course, hard to hit fairways is fast greens. It's scoring roll, the par is difficult. I think all the things match up there. So it's kind of my last kind of checkpoint. Okay. So again, I always say this, if you are new, what I walk through is the process that I go through, and then I am, kind of showing you guys how I kind of get to my picks. The first thing I always do is look at recent form, and someone has asked me, how do I kind of weight things? It's a little different all the time, but recent form is definitely pretty heavily weighted. I'd say probably somewhere around 30-40% of my picks. Of course, if they're coming in with, 7 missed cuts, I see no life. There's no way I'm going to be picking them. But also course fit and course history, the putting, there's a lot of different things that go in, but just to give you kind of an idea, I kind of break it in percentiles and my weighting, but recent form is something definitely that is a huge weight factor. I am just highlighting a few guys to the left here, that I'm kind of interested in, I think, and from a recent form perspective. And what this is, you're looking at is the last 24 rounds. And then, of course, the ranking of them against my model. So this is a custom stat model with different weights. Of course, putting weight, very heavy at 15% approach. Most of the shots will be coming in from 150 to 175, but of course, there is some other 175 to 200, 200 plus around the green, scrambling, three putt avoidance, again, heavily weighted. They got to make hay on the par fives, no different than most courses. Green and reg is weighted 10 and fairways. I think they're both very equal. Like I said, I added ball striking. I also added eagles because there is two par fives that are have the ability to eagles, and just kind of like what we saw at Pebble Beach, that the guys that can make a couple eagles is definitely going to help them get ahead of the pack. I actually watched again, and I always recommend this, and I'll actually put a link on YouTube, but to kind of watch the round highlights from 2020. So round one, round two, round three, round four. There's also Golf Digest has the ability where you can go hole by hole. I don't know if you want to do that, but again, it's just good to get your mindset because we're watching so many different tournaments, even myself, and you kind of forget certain nuances. All right. So some guys, I'm highlighting the guys that I think are interesting that popped up. Russ Henley's got a great approach game. He actually had a pretty decent round here last year. Carlo Ortiz has been on fire, and I think for the price, he's a great play. Joaquin Neiman, I did some more analysis on. Lanto, we're going to talk a little bit more about Morikawa. I think Kyle Stanley's interesting that he popped up here under recent form. I wouldn't have thought that. Under those rankings, again, you got to remember this is weighted against a model. But under the things that I'm looking for, the putting is the big issue there. But if you see, his proximities, his irons have been great for the last 24 rounds. Short game, terrible from putting, scramble around the green, scrambling. And then the history at the Riviera. I was pretty shocked that Vaughn Taylor actually was the number one that popped up again against my model. And when I'm looking at history now, I want to just look at a very near sample size. So this is their past three tournaments or 12 rounds that they played at the course. It could be different, but if you see 12 rounds, typically they played three. They made it to the weekend. Where you see 8 rounds or something like that, or 6, that kind of shows you they probably missed a cut. But I just was kind of shocked that Vaughn Taylor popped up there. But again, against my model, weighted at 12 rounds. Kevin Na popped up top 3. So he does have some solid history here. Again, Ortiz that I mentioned. Fitzpatrick, we're going to talk about a little more in depth. Actually, I think the next thing I talk about. And then Wes Bryant, just thought that was interesting at 6,100. So when we get into look at the sleepers, I'll do some more information, a deep dive on him. And then comp course history, again, Vaughn Taylor popped up. And again, just so you remember, that's kind of looking at, of course, the Riv, but Torrey Pines South, Chapultepec, Ridgewood, and Innsbruck Copperhead. Jim Furyk, who had a good tournament, and I actually picked him last week, does well on POA and keeps it in the fairway and, gives himself opportunities. It's all what he does with the putter. Again, Matthew Fitzpatrick, nah. Again, I'm not picking out the guys that we already know, are going to, should do well here. Just showing you guys some names. And of course, Sung Kang had a good tournament last year. So his name pops up. And it's funny, my POA guys that not Nick Taylor, but I was looking at Harry Higgs last week. But he didn't make the cut. All right, so I mentioned Matthew Fitzpatrick. I'm just bringing him up because we haven't seen him in a while, pretty much since the Masters. He's been over, of course, playing Europe. And I just wanted to call out that he did have a win over there, the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai. He won that tournament. He had a 67th at Abu Dhabi. And then I believe Paul Casey won at the Omega. He had a 17th. So I'm just pulling it up because the stuff that I look at, and I'm sure a lot, doesn't look at the European Tour. So just something to keep in mind that, if you look at that, some decent success. And for Matthew, I think he's a great player and he's a great putter. It's just sometimes he's on with the putter and he's not, but he's typically a pretty good putter. And on that note, elite putters. So who pops up? So Carlos Ortiz. Again, this is on, just so you know, this is turned on filters. looking at POA greens, fast. I think that's the only two things I had turned on because fast POA greens. But yeah, Ortiz now popped up again. Maverick McNeely, California kid. Of course, had a really nice tournament recently. So someone we'll have to take a look at. Wes Bryant popped up again, which was interesting. Of course, Nate Lashley has been having success on POA. So someone, again, when we get, I'm kind of keeping these top plays, probably 7,500 and up. But some of these guys might be, of course, who I'll be looking at on the sleeper side or cup makers. So. And then the last thing I wanted to look at was elite long irons. So this is looking at the last 24 rounds. And what I did is I'm looking at guys that are hitting green and reg, approach, par threes, opportunities gained from hitting those irons. Proximities, I just went ahead and went all the way from 100 all the way up to 200 plus and just see what shot out. No shocker, Justin Thomas was leading that, one of the best iron players there is. Of course, Morikawa, elite. Henley is an elite iron player. Kyle Stanley again popped up. Thought that was kind of interesting. And then Joaquin Niemann again popped up there. And let's just start looking at the players. Now, these guys are not ranked in how I'm picking them, but these are the top 15 players that I'll be using as my kind of core plays. And no shocker off the bat, DJ, I was looking, to be honest, for a way to try to not play DJ. But everything I look at just screams that he's going to do well here. Now, the only one thing that was in my mind about DJ is that his last tournament, which he actually won, I think he shot 13 under over in Europe, and I believe that was Abu Dhabi, I believe. Or no, it was international. It doesn't matter. But he does have a recent win over in Europe, and then, of course, he took off last week because he couldn't play with his father-in-law, Wayne Gretzky, and now he's fresh, so we don't have to worry about the travel or jet lag. But recent results, we already know, just elite. If we look at his tournament history here, elite. Oops, I didn't want to actually do that. Let's just click on. I already got him open. I don't want to have to sit here and wait. So, of course, he gains almost a half, a third of a stroke, we'll say, on POA, but it is his best putting surface. Everything's green. Of course, his stroke gain is on the way up. If you look at Tournament of Champions, maybe just a little bit off the tee and a putter is what, got him that 11th. But everything else, his first seconds, he got a 6 at the U.S. Open. I mean, it's just unreal, the game that he is playing right now. And I think we already mentioned the Genesis. He had a 10th last year, but he had a first, won it in 2017. He's had a couple seconds. He's had a couple miscuts. That was before I think he was starting to hit the fade. I think he started to hit the fade, I think somewhere around 2016. But he used to just always draw the ball. But once he started hitting that kind of, if you want to call it a butter fade off the tee, it just seemed like he could now work the ball both ways. And it was just a difference maker for him. I'm also, as I mentioned, let's look at the Farmers. So he had a miscut in 2017, so it's a little bit back, but he had an 18th. He had a third way back. But nothing else to worry about. What I knew is that, he won WGC Mexico. I think that was the year Abraham Ancer also did well there. He's won it twice, and that course, I think, is almost like identical. It's just in Mexico. I don't know if the guy came over and actually looked at the Riviera. I know a lot of the designers will leverage the Riviera course for some ideas or mimic some holes. But, he had a 48th in 2020. But just elite at that course and elite here. So everything, like I said, just keeps pointing you that he's going to do well here. And then the only year I'm looking at this is 2018. As I mentioned, they played Ridgewood, which is a very similar POA. Everything kind of works out as a comp course. So, he had an 11th there. And then let's take a look at Valspar while I'm at it. And then he had a 6th place in 2019. So, again, I don't like playing the most expensive guy. It usually burns me. But I can't come up with anything except the only thing, as I said, is he actually won a tournament but didn't putt good. I mean, it had a bad putting hour. So how win a tournament and putt bad, you're hitting the ball just crazy. So the next guy we're going to look at is DeChambeau. Now, this one's going to be a little different. I was not really expecting that I would probably play DeChambeau, but the more I kind of dug into the details, the more I liked him, and I could talk about. So who I'm kind of not going with, of course, up here. Well, let's just take this off for a second, just so we can just talk about the top guys. So we got JT, Rory, and Rahm. And Rory had a good outing here last year, but I'm fading. Not, I'm sure I'm going to have teams with these guys. Probably Rahm will be my least played. I've just been watching him with the putter, and it's just been nauseating. And POA is not a friendly source for him. Rory, the same thing. He just still can't put it all together. He has that one bad round, and I'm still just not sure where his head's at. But he could do well here. Like I say, he had a good showing last year. Yeah, ended up with a T5th. I think at one time he was almost leading or just behind Kuchar. And I'm sorry, but for some reason it's coming up goofy here when I put this on. So let's see if I shut it down. And then JT, same thing. I just think, some of the history I saw also, if I where was I at? Oh, I took it away. POA is not as strong as putting service. So, you got to make a decision. There's like, 5 guys at the upper area. And funny enough, I decided on DJ. And then I think one of the lower ones was, the lowest was Mr. DeChambeau. Okay. So also I'm thinking that from a projected ownership, even though this is saying 15%, I think it's going to be less. I think people remember what happened at the Masters. When it comes time to build those teams, I'm going to be curious how many people actually do go through and pull the trigger on DeChambeau over a Rory or a JT or a Rahm. But what I like is I think out of all of them, he has the highest, gains the highest on POA. And again, kind of the main things I'm looking at is good POA putters. And also I'm looking at guys that have played this course a few times. I think you need to have some background history. Of course, I'm looking at the approach game is huge. It's not too far off, as I mentioned, from what I was looking at Pebble Beach. But anyways, all right. So we go take a look. And the Genesis, he had a 5th place here last year. So he's played here 3 times, which I like, 15th and a 4th. So it's getting better every time. Also, this is a thinking man's course. It's a little bit like Augusta. This course you need, even though he did not do well there, but that was just I think he had a couple bad tee shots, had that one ball that plugged and couldn't find. And I think he just threw his game off. I was off him for the Masters, but not to get sidetracked. I'm just saying I think it's a good spot for him. The Farmers. So now then we'll do at the Farmers. When was that last time he played there? So it was 2018. But WGC Mexico, he had a 2nd place. Again, which I think is one of the best comp courses we've got at the Chapultepec. Not to keep saying that. The Northern Trust. So this is what really piqued my interest. And again, I kind of mentioned, let me click on this so you can just see it. So Ridgewood Country Club is a par 71. What they're playing is a par 70. It's POA, of course. You got fast greens. The fairways are a little easier to hit, but distance-wise, you're right on the 7,300. It is, I think, a great fit. Now, again, this is 2018, but again, it shows, I always look at there is horses for courses. This looks like a nice setup for him. And so, again, it was something that really kind of tipped the balance a little bit for me. Of course, the POA split, the putting splits. I just hope that he's, kind of calm down a little bit with trying to just keep getting more and more distance with the driver and know that he's got to be in play. And he was very accurate with the driver for a while, hence the U.S. Open where he gained over 22 strokes against the field. He's going to need that same kind of game to go ahead and win at this course. It is a challenge. Okay. Patrick Cantlay. Also was someone that, of course, had a great tournament. We saw him, go 8 birdies and 9 holes on the first day at Pebble Beach. So we know he can putt on POA. Likes the California side. Decent tournament history here. And if we pull up, he's the only one that I'm picking, I think, that is not where POA is his strongest putting surface, but it's neutral. And we've seen what he can do. Now, he had a little bit of struggles. I believe that was day 2. He played Spyglass, and that wasn't that bad. It was that 3rd day that he just seemed to be a little frustrated with the putter. But I think for the tool set that you're looking for, and for the price, you can't really beat Cantlay. And I think he's, with all these big names, he might get a little overlooked. What is his projected ownership right now? 17%. So, we'll see. Again, when you see that, it's a lot of people, even like me, that are picking, picking the guys that they see as their favorites right now, and they got to start, of course, making their selections from there. So okay, moving along. So the Genesis we already know. Best was a fourth in 2018, but has been around this track 5 times, so he knows it. We got the Farmers. He had a 51st in the 2018 WGC Mexico. He had a 6 in 2019. Let's look at the Northern Trust. In 2018, he had an 8th place finish. Again, that's at Ridgewood. And Valspar, he had a 2nd place in 2017, which again shows me he can play a tough track. So I like him. The next one we're going to look at is Colin Morikawa. So Colin, okay, Colin doesn't positive on any, but his approach, and when I was looking, I talked about in my opener, there's different ways to get it done here. And if you hit such an elite approach shots, your putting maybe doesn't have to be as great as everybody else. But as you see, POA is actually, funny enough, his best surface. He's a California kid. Coming off 7th place, so good recent form. But we haven't seen him a little bit since the Sony. Seems like a little while. We look at the Genesis. He's played here once at a 26. We look at the Farmers. He had a 21st in 2020. WGC Mexico. He played in 20 and had a 42nd. I doubt he played that Northern Trust. Yeah, he wasn't playing then. Still an amateur. And I don't know if he's ever played Valspar. Nope. So anyways, again, one of the best approach guys, and can definitely do some damage, can do some eagles. I'm on Colin Morikawa. And then Finau, it is a positive putting surface for him. He's coming off a 2nd place finish in Europe, and he had a T2 at the Farmers, 4th at the Amex, so he's in great form. So we already know the Farmers is a fit. If we look at his past at the Genesis, he had a 2nd place in 2018, a 15th, and a 51st. Curious what his projected ownership is right now. 16%. I think everybody's 16%. So, yeah, he's playing elite. Of course, we're still waiting for that first win, and we always say, hey, why not this time? So the Farmers, he had a 51st in 2018, but 2 missed cuts the others. Let's take a look at the Northern Trust. So this I like. So again, Ridgewood, 2018, he had an 8th place finish. And another thing about Finau, which, I'm sure a lot of the guys are kind of talking about, this guy just excels. Something about majors and really strong fields is when this guy comes to play. And hence you can see that Northern Trust for the FedEx playoffs. And Valspar, he had a 2nd place in 2017, the one time he played. And again, I like to see that. So he's gaining 4 strokes. Again, that's on POA. So that's good for Tony. I didn't even look at, let's see how he did putting at the Genesis in the past. So in 2018, he gained 4 strokes, gained just almost a stroke, and then with that 17th, that's where he lost it, was on the putting. So Tony has a decent putter. Could be a very good week. We already looked at Colin. Okay, moving on to Adam. Adam Scott, of course, positive on POA. Funny enough, it's his only positive putting surface from a splits. Playing decent. I like that 10th he at the Farmers. So, everything looks good here off the tee. He's got a new driver. What is that shaft called? They were talking about. I think it's $750 for, I think it's a super flex or something like that. But he's hitting the ball 20 yards further. I think Rory was playing with him a couple rounds and tried to just, practice swing and just said it felt so whippy, but, it's working for Adam. I don't know if he had it here at the Sony. So it's kind of curious if they've been messing around with his shaft. Because the one thing with Adam, he needs to be accurate. I'm not worried about the length, especially on this course. So he might switch back to something that he knows he's more accurate with. It's all about his approach, short game, and it's whatever that, the long putter, still kind of long putter does. All right. So we already know, he won this. He's the reigning champion going into this event. So we know he can handle himself. He had a 2nd in 2016. I mentioned when it used to be the Nissan Open, he won. It was a 36-hole event due to weather. It was shortened, but he won that too out of the 36 holes. Let's look at the Farmers. He had a 10th and a 2nd. So again, something about these courses he does like. WGC Mexico, he had a 26 in 2020, a 45th in 2017. Let's look at the Northern Trust in 2018. He had a 5th. So again, a great fit. And Valspar, he played it in 2018, had a 16th, and he played it in 2015 and a miscut. Okay. Moving along, Victor Hovland. So he is a little negative on POA, but his game, almost a lot like Morikawa, just super steady, great with off the tee, great on approach, of course, around the green. It all comes down what Victor does with the putter. But if you look at the Farmers, he gained 4 strokes. And again, I just want to verify, but that is POA. Yeah, Torrey Pines South. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, let's go look at his past. So he is, I think, the only one I'm picking that has not actually played played in a tournament here. Because I kind of mentioned that narrative that, I'm looking for guys that have experience. But where his game's at, also with that second place at the Farmers, as I mentioned, I think it's a great comp course, the WGC Mexico. Never played there. And I already know you had the Northern Trust. He wasn't around for 2018. And what about the Valspar? So not a lot of other things that we're going off. We're just going off recent form, what we know with Victor's game, and I'm going with it. I am going to be playing some Vic. Scotty Scheffler, another one. Again, POA is not his best surface, but he has played here, I believe, twice. He had a 30th last year, but he's just been playing. His game is, coming off that Farmers, but at the Waste Management played really well. Let's look. So we already know he had a missed couple. What else has he done? The Farmers. So just played it twice in 2 miscuts. Might not be playing the Farmers anymore. WGC Mexico. He had a 26, so that's good. And I don't think, no, he didn't play in the Northern Trust. What about Valspar? Never played that. So I'm going to, those two I would put more. I am leaning on, at least Scotty's played the course. Victor has not, but playing on what I've been seeing out of them. All right, Max Homa, California kid. He's been playing great. We just saw what he can do on POA. It's always been a pretty elite ball striker from an approach. You can see that right here. Off the tee, he can get a little wayward. He also will hit the 3-wood to kind of manage that if it's getting a little out of hand. If we look at his past course, he had a 5th place finish here in 2020, a 37th previously. Let's take a look at the Farmers. He had an 18th and a 9th. I like that. WGC Mexico did not play in yet. Northern Trust in 2002. And has he played the Valspar? So the Valspar, not so good. But the other one's pretty solid. So I'm going to keep riding Max. Kevin, here's a guy that I don't like to play. But that's not about what you like or you don't. It's what all the information is telling you. And even though you can see he's a good putter, we all know that. I mean, he can be very streaky, but POA, he's just kind of neutral on. But everything, I tried to eliminate him, and everything. So if you I'm weighing, I guess, more of the comp courses and course history, just kept saying, if you waive this guy, he's going to end up hurting you. Pretty much like the Sony. I don't think I played him, and of course he won that. And that's not why I'm playing him now. But we look at the Genesis. He's been around this track quite a few. I mean, I'm not going to go all the way back, but if you just go back to 17, 18, you can look at that miscut. What is his projected ownership? I'm curious. So 4.5% right now. Again, I'm not putting too much into that. I'll go over the ownership stuff on Wednesday. But anyways, I was just curious. So pretty solid track record there. We look at the Farmers. He had a miscut, but that was a long time ago. WGC Mexico. So this is one of the things I looked at. Again, he had that 9th in 2020. He's made the cut. And then I think the Northern Trust that I was wanting to look. So Northern Trust in 2018, he had a 15th. And then if we look, see what he done at Valspar. And then Valspar, a 2nd, a 10th, a 22nd. Again, that's a little while back. And he had a miscut in 2017. But again, he can get around a track. And, the game, it's all about, he's hot with those irons, as you see, when he's gaining. It's kind of on and off, right? So I'm going to play him. I'll let you know where I'm picking him, but he is someone that's going to be my player pool, and that's a rarity. I don't usually play him. Carlos Ortiz. I've talked about this guy. I think I was talking about the guys I see trending up, and I think, until something's shown, he just keeps playing amazing. He gains a half stroke on POA. I've already put a bet on him. I think it was 80 to 1. So I was excited to get that bet in. The only thing here is what his approach does. It was the only thing that made me nervous. As you see at the waist, he did gain a little, so that's good. But you can see even at the Farmers when he loses around the green and putting, can make up for that off the tee. The Houston Open, his irons were on, and then of course even at the Zozo. But anyways, if we go look at some of the comp stuff, he's played here 4 times. The best was a 9th, so really you could just say a top 25 almost every time. So that is solid for Mr. Ortiz. WGC Mexico, he had a 16th in 2020, which I liked. In the Northern Trust, he did not play in 2018, and Valspar. Miscut last time, but has made it the other 2 times. So, yeah, I'm really high on Carlos Ortiz. Great recent form. I think it's a good match for him. Mr. Tringali, again, gains on the POA surface. Has been actually playing some pretty good golf. He helped me out on Showdown a couple times here recently. The putters where he's been doing it, and approach has been real solid. So, of course, at the AT&T, ended up in a 7th. If we look at his past, he actually has quite a bit of past history here, which I was kind of shocked. He's played here, I don't know, almost 8-9 times. His best was an 8th in 2017, but had a 30th recently. If we look at the Farmers, he had an 18th and a 16th. We look at WGC. Nope, didn't play the Mexico. Northern Trust. He had a 2nd, but that's not the one I'm looking at. I'm looking for 2018, so that does not matter. Scratch that. And the Valspar. It's had a couple decent, but miscut the last 3 times. So I like Tringali. Again, it's hot. We talked about Fitzpatrick already. POA doesn't come out as a positive surface. And we looked at Genesis. We had a 30th here. Don't know how much he's going to have. He should have a WGC Mexico. Yeah, so he's played that course 4 times. The best was the 16th, but made the cut every time. Let's see if he played the... Nope, not the Northern. And Valspar. Miscut. But again, I like his game. I think it's a good fit for this course. And then Cameron Davis, it's not positive on POA, but his game has been amazing these last 3 events. The guy has always produced points. It's just, making sure he makes the cut and keeps in the putter. You can see has been picking up as part of that reason. He has played at the Genesis in 2019, but miscut. Let's see the Farmers. Played a bit at the Farmers. A 32nd, a 36th, a 57th, and a 58th. I doubt he played the Northern Trust in 2018. And let's see, Valspar missed a cut. But again, big fan of Cam Davis, and his game just keeps improving. And then my last is Lanto Griffin. Thank you for sticking with me. I know this is a little in depth, but of course you can always kind of fast forward through it. But again, he had a great Farmers. The irons have been on. The putting's been on. If we look at his background, he had a 37th here last year. The Farmers, he had a 7th, 11th. Apologize. He had a 7th and a 12th and a miscut. Sanderson kind of gets in there. WGC Mexico. Last year, he had a 29th. I like that. And has never played the Valspar. Okay. So that gives you a little more deeper dive information. Now let's jump back over and I'll let you know where I'm rating these guys. Okay. So who I think is going to end up top 5 out of all those guys is the first guy I've got is DeChambeau. I think he can have a top 5 finish. I got DJ as a top 5 finish. Mr. Finau, which you can always pencil him for 2nd place. Carlos Ortiz. And rounded out, I think Cantlay probably a little pissed about the way the tournament went. I mean, the guy was out in a nice lead, and just if he could have just made a few putts more, which you can always say that, I think he's going to come out and look to win this thing. For my top 10 finishes, I like Scott. I got Morikawa, Lanto Griffin, which might be a little bit of a shocker, but I think he can do a top 10 here. Scotty Scheffler and Mr. Victor Hovland. And for a top 20 finish, I like Kevin Na, Mr. Max Homa. We got Tringali, Fitzpatrick, and Cam Davis. So that's how I see playing out. I appreciate your time. I hope those insights help you make some decisions. Again, if you are new, I would appreciate greatly if you like what you're hearing. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I put out 3 shows a week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday's kind of the first look show. Today's the core plays, top plays, and then of course tomorrow will be my sleepers, my fades, and ownership projections, weather, anything that I'm looking at to see if make or change our mind on some of the things that we're doing. Like and share if you think anybody else will get value from us, and I would appreciate greatly if you have any questions or anything you'd like, hit me up on the Twitter sphere at DFS Golf Guru, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. It can be betting questions, or you're one and done, whatever it is. Let me know. Thanks so much, guys, and best of luck to us, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.